So what was the philosophy in picking this squad? Was it on form, future, whatnot?
Yeah, it's always a blend. And you know, there've been a number of discussions over the last 2 weeks really that we started formulating probably where we were going with the selections. You know, and the playoff games always carry a little bit more weight. You're playing at a slightly higher level, a little bit more pressure, but there's a lot more pressure to come. So, you know, there's a number of guys in the squad who aren't pressure tested, and we're pretty keen to learn a bit about them over these next 3 test matches.
Is Curly Bill a genuine chance to play for the Wallabies this year, or is he a mentor role playing that?
Look, he's in the squad, you know, and if you're in the squad, you're a chance to put the boots on in a 23 at some stage during the 3-week period. Curtly's played well. Feedback from the force has been really positive about his influence, and even talking to the guys like Ben Donaldson, you know, it just frees Ben up to see what he needs to see and leave, you know, the wider spaces to Curtly to boss, and that synergy is something that's really important in teams because it needs a bit of trust, but it also takes a bit of pressure off one person being the hub to see everything that needs to be seen.
Those that have already declared they're going to league, never considered for selection?
I'd say we were keen to invest in the guys who are investing in the future here, and an investment in them, I think, is a longer term. It has a longer term payoff, and in the short term, we'd like to think there's a bit of a payoff there anyway. We like some of those guys we've selected, and some of the guys who aren't there. There was a real contest for a number of those positions anyway, whether it be up front or in the backs, and you know, there could still be some movement between now and the Rugby Championship.
Joe, there's not just the league guys, there's probably half a dozen going overseas as well. Were lines put through all of them really? Like if you're going, that's like the lack of investment kind of thing?
I don't think we put a line through anyone. You know, we've had discussions with a number of them, but they're taking a path, and it's their chosen path, and we've decided to take a path. But that's not at the exclusion of people. It's at the inclusion of those guys in this immediate future who are invested in Australian rugby, and we're very keen to invest in them. I've had some great discussions with some of the other guys, and you know, the door has not been slammed on anyone.
If Phil Waugh's spoken about the importance of getting back to winning the next test rather than looking ahead, how does that philosophy marry up to the fact that everyone that's leaving isn't part of this initial squad?
Well, that would be on the basis that you think they should be, and that's a decision that we've taken a lot of time to come to, and you know, we've demonstrated a faith in the guys that are here, and you know, I guess we'll find out in 2 weeks just how competitive the group can be. It's going to be difficult. You got 5 new coaches. I'm meeting some of these guys actually on the grass for the first time in Brisbane, and you know, to have 4 days there and then a couple of trainings before we play Wales, you know, gets to spend a lot of time in Wales. He knows some of those players really well, and there's a continuity and rhythm to what they do. So we have to build a rhythm very, very quickly. So I've never been one to make big promises, only that we'll be working really hard to try to get as much rhythm as we can, but by July 6.
It's a long time since we've seen the names Liner and Nasser in a Wallaby squad. They've obviously been picked on form though, not just on their survey.
Yeah, and very much in discussion. You know, I've coached a lot with Les in the past. I think he's doing a super job up there. The feedback from the players is really positive about the Reds environment, And I think right from the start of the season, Tom, he was hitting the ball long. He's a courageous man. Anyone who gets up I wouldn't say quickly from Samapeni Finau hitting him, but he got up and continued to play. And he challenges the line. He's got good acceleration. So he's young and he's still got a lot to learn. And we're going to try to fast track that learning over this next 4 weeks, really.
Jake, you had discussions around Corey too, and that decision for him to go to sevens rather than him being involved in this squad.
Yeah, I think it's a massive pinnacle event for Rugby Australia, and I had a discussion with Corey, and Corey was happy to prioritise in the short term the Olympics, and then I think Corey will be a real kind of asset to us if selected beyond that.
Just on another young guy, Darby Lancaster, what have you liked about him? And I guess the follow-up, was there a sort of temptation to pick another young guy in Tim Ryan, given the sort of nature of the squad?
Yeah, I think anyone was tempted to pick Tim Ryan. And I had a super conversation with him around selection and around his readiness for selection. I think one of the things you've got to be just a little bit wary of is the temptation to be tempted by the excitement of a young kid who plays really well, and then the reality of readiness to play at that level and the sort of players that he's going to come up against. So within that discussion, Tim has done a great job for the Reds, and we'll enjoy tracking him and potentially Tim being involved at some time in the future. But Darby, his speed is very, very good. He is a very good defender. Post tackle puts a lot of pressure on, and I just think that it's a great opportunity for him to get in and learn a bit of his craft in a Wallabies environment.
Who was your toughest exclusion?
A number of them. I don't think I could label one individual exclusion. You go through it positionally, and there are tough exclusions. I think Ryan Lonergan. I think it's a matter of time with a guy like Ryan Lonergan, but the experience of those other guys, particularly with less experience in our teens, it's about trying to find a balance, and so that's a tough conversation. But there was a number of them. I think Darcy Swain, he's done a great job calling lineouts and running the lineout for the Brumbies, which is a really strong lineout. And so, but I could go positionally and just about work my way right through the whole list, and that's a good thing though. If the decisions are tough, then hopefully we've got a squad that has a little bit of depth to it.
Joe spoke about being encouraged by the Super Rugby form during the season, but the finals, were you disappointed with the Australian exits out of the finals? They probably didn't put their best form on.
Yeah, the first quarter really, like the Reds, just that first quarter, they got just too far behind and built their way back. They had enough 22 entries. I thought when Matt Fazler missed out on that try, I thought that might have just given them a little bit of reach on the scoreboard to get a bit of confidence to go after them. And it was the same with the Brumbies and the Blues. That first quarter, if you take that first quarter out, it was a bit more competitive than the score looked at the finish. So for both those teams and the Rebels, there was nothing in that at half time. The Hurricanes scored late in the first half, and the Rebels were right in it until then. So, the teams that did qualify, they all showed a real competitiveness. Just you got to get that for 80 minutes, and that's one of the massive challenges against really good teams, because they can very quickly put the scoreboard out of reach with the firepower they carry.
Is there any concern coming out of the World Cup? I know there's actually not a huge number of guys who were there, but there would be scarring from that World Cup experience last year, and you'd have to address that when you came in this year.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a little bit of uncertainty and lack of confidence that we'll have to build through the next 4 days. And that, I know that doesn't sound like a lot of time. It's probably because it isn't. But I think the quicker we roll our sleeves up and focus on what we can achieve rather than what wasn't achieved, then I think the sooner we can start to build that confidence. And in the end, if we can win a few really good moments at training and build confidence through that, then hopefully, the last time we played Wales, it was 40 points to 6, which is a pretty devastating scoreline for a Wallaby side.
As Kirtley Bill, not many people would have thought that he would have come back into the international reckoning. What's pleasantly surprised you about him? When was the first time that you thought, hang on, he might actually have a bit more value to add from an international perspective?
There's been a few times. I think, one probably sticks in my mind, the force they were playing left to right, and he looked that side, there was nothing on, he swept back around the other side. Ben Donaldson decided to have a crack at a gap, got the ball through to Kirtley. Kirtley just came straight off his left shoulder. And that, I don't know, sens de jeu, the kind of game sense, it's hard to coach that. He just sees the game. Sometimes I think as players get older, they see it, but maybe struggled to land it. But he's been landing it pretty well, and so that was part of it, particularly around the feedback from the force around the confidence he was giving other players, and we had a number of the force on the grass last week, and there was really positive feedback about his influence.
Joe, are you concerned about the lack of depth at type 5 in terms of experience depth? There's only, I think, 2 locks who've got international caps, and you've got 5 or 6 front rowers who are unavailable through selection. Through injury.
Yeah, I tell you what, I have got though massive confidence in Mike Cron and Jeff Parling and Laurie Fisher to whatever we have got to make the most of it. And I've met those players, and I just think that we've got to back ourselves to get the best out of them, and they've got to work hard enough to get the best out of themselves. So it's probably as simple as I can make the plan. I've been coaching internationally probably for 10 years, professionally for more than 20, and I know there's times where you look at it and you think, wow, there's not a lot of experience there, and that's a risk. And counteracting that is the amount of experience in the coaching team. Some would say we're even old, and I know I qualify. I'm feeling old this morning or this afternoon, just because it's been a lot of work going into trying to make selections and getting a balance of what we know about players and what we think we can find out about players over this next very short period of time.
Joe, Alex Hodgman's a fairly unique story. In your dealings with him, what are his motivations for becoming a Wallaby?
Yeah, I've never talked to Alex about that. I've coached Alex briefly. I kind of went in to help out the Blues when Tana had a year off and help with the defence. And Alex works hard on his game, and I think he'll be pretty excited to be in the squad with a chance of potentially being, I think, maybe one of 4 people, which is an extraordinary little bit of history that he might be able to be part of. But in the meantime, he'll also be, he knows me reasonably well, he'll he'll be understanding that it's going to be a pretty pragmatic decision, and there's things to be earned, and so he'll be ready to roll his sleeves up come Monday.
Can I clarify with Carter, Gordon and Mark Maloney to ask their status in your eyes? That there's suggestions that the NRL clubs they're going to are keen to get them early if they're not going to be considered for selection. Where do they stand now for you? Do you want them on standby for the rest of the year? Would you be happy to let them go off to their new clubs if that's what they desire?
Yeah, I think one of the things that first of all with Mark is that even as important as the Wallabies are, as we did with Corey, one of the things that is a priority this year is a pinnacle event like the Olympics, and Mark may well he may well follow that path in the short term, and I think he'd be a real asset for the Sevens. At the same time, there are some really good Sevens players who've played through the whole series. So that's the conundrum for John and his management to work through. And then Carter, I think with Carter, we've actually got Noah, Tom, and Ben who've all done pretty well this year. Some of their percentages exceed Carter's, and we've just got to be excited about the guys that we have got. As I've had a number of discussions with Carter, I really like him. I think he's a great young kid, and I think there could be an opportunity for him to come back at some stage after probably getting a little bit out of his system from recent times, whether it be the World Cup or more recently.
What about if they both saw early releases? What would you think?
Yeah, I think that I haven't been part of a discussion on that yet, and I guess it's something I hadn't really considered, but I think it would be something we'd have to talk about if it came up. I don't really want to get in their way if they want to get on. They've chosen a path and they want to get on the pathway. At the same time, as I said about Mark, his is a slightly different situation to Carter. But if that was the case, I guess it would be a decision for the rugby committee, and they may ask me my opinion, but it'd be something I'd throw back to the coaches, because that's how we make our decisions.
Joe, the Wallabies captaincy is a prestigious position. Last year was a bit of a dog's breakfast, to be honest, wasn't it? Like, what's your standpoint? Do you think you'll have a co-captaincy sort of situation, or will you have one seat?
Yeah, that's a really tough question. I don't know some of these men very well. I've been impressed with some of them, but it's superficial knowledge of them. I haven't seen them under pressure. I haven't seen them at training. I haven't seen the way they lead by the actions they deliver. And so, some of those things I just want to find out a bit about. I've leaned on Laurie a bit. He knows them better. Jeff knows a few of them, having been involved with the Wallabies before, and Mike Cron, he's a good thermometer. He gets a pretty good feel for the temperature around other players' perceptions of someone you might perceive to be a leader, because I think it's one thing labelling a leader. It's whether people are prepared to follow them, and whether they have a real confidence in them and the reliability of what they're going to be delivering. And so, there's a lot of unknowns there, and I'm just trying to work my way through it, and we'll do so over the next 4 days, or the 4 days of next week, and then we'll name a captain for Wales 1, and that may be the captain for the July tests, or it may not be, depending on what we deem is the best mix and selection for the next and the next test match.
Joe, just back to Gertley. Was he as shocked as everyone else when you told him he was in the squad?
I get to make the 31 calls to the players who aren't in the squad. I don't talk to the guys who make it. They get Chris Thompson touches base with them. So you'd have to ask Tomo, really, to be honest. I've just seen Peachy and Jiz Williams, and they seem to be pretty happy. So that's 2 out of 38 looking pretty happy. So I'll take the first 2 and we'll work our way forward. But yeah, I'm looking forward to catching up with everyone Sunday night and getting out on the grass on Monday. And yeah, I'm just a rugby coach. I've spent 5 months waiting to do some rugby coaching. So yeah, I'm sure you guys are sick of talking about it as well. You want to see something. I hope you're looking forward to seeing something good. I'm hoping it's going to be worth watching. And all I'd say to supporters is that it won't be for lack of effort. Some of these boys have already demonstrated their ability or their capacity for effort, and it's one of the key aspects that we were looking for in our selection.